I'm going to push the button in a minute. All right, I pushed the button. Maybe we're live. Hey, everybody, welcome back to another amazing episode of the best darn show on the internet, the Over Sharon Show. And I'm very excited today. We're going to be continuing our Tao series. But we have a little bit something different. Instead of exactly a quote, Sharon came across this amazing book by Leo Tolstoy.
Yeah.
And
I'll just say it's kind of a sync because I came
yeah, go ahead, you can
across,
take over.
yeah, I'll just tell you how I found it kind of. I was I was cleaning up my iBooks collection because I had a bunch of books I wasn't going to read again, and I just was like cleaning all that up. Came across a book that I'd gotten for free on Apple iBooks, and it was called The Kingdom of God is Within You by Leo Tolstoy. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. I wonder if it's the same stuff that we talk about on the show, or the same stuff that like Bill Donahue talks about. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to try to poke my head into that book. So I did. And it was totally about the topic we're going to talk about today. It's really awesome. But uh, as I was doing that, um, actually yesterday I was looking through the books again and I thought, you know what? I'm just going to see what else Leo Tolstoy wrote that's kind of like maybe along the same lines. So I found this book that's called, it's not really a book, it was a letter, and it's called A Letter to a Hindu. And I guess Tolstoy wrote this, but it was never published. And it's at some point they decided, I guess posthumously, to publish it. So it's in the public domain. So you can just, if you want, you can get it for free on iBooks or Kindle, which I did. And it's called A Letter to a Hindu, as I said. But the intro is by Gandhi. So he writes a little introduction. And I was reading it last night and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so what we're going to talk about tomorrow. So it's a total sync. It's really in line with the verses. So that's all I wanted to say.
Amazing. Am I breaking up to you at all? Because you were breaking up a little bit.
Oh, really? No, you're not.
Uh-oh, you're
Your
frozen now. I
connection,
had to
your
ask the
connection's not really
question. Hey,
steady.
you. Oh,
Oh, now
I'm
you
good.
did.
Hey, everyone in the chat. I don't know. It
Can
says
you
excellent.
maybe close some apps? Maybe I don't know.
I
I'm
don't know.
just
Hey,
trying this
everybody.
out.
Ask Cody. He's in the chat. Are we breaking up? Yeah, I closed. I have everything closed except for what I need. I guess I close the Finder app. Mhm.
Let me see if I'm.
How's everybody doing out there in the oversharing world today? It
Yeah,
says, oh, you asked him. Okay. That was Sharon.
I
All
have
right.
quite a few things open, but I don't know. I don't.
Yeah, I'm excited. Last week was great.
Trying
Could
to
be the
use
internet.
two.
I don't know. It says I got full time
Slight
shows. I turned
roboting
my
from
phone and my
Brandon.
iPad off the internet, so there's not as much
Bandwidth.
draw.
He said it's slight roboting from you, Uh, but but it seems
That's
fine now.
not
He's.
good.
Do you want me to
Okay.
read it? I can read it.
Well, yeah, you could. If anyone notices roboting, just let me know. But yeah, you can read it and we'll see if it gets any better.
Okay. I'm not going to read every single um part of this intro, but I will
I'll
read some
try
of the
turning my
high.
video off for a little bit.
Okay. I will read the highlighted statements. So here we go. Again, this is called A Letter to a Hindu by Leo Tolstoy, and this introduction is written by Gandhi. It says in the highlighted statements, it says, it is a mere statement of fact to say that every Indian, whether he grows up to it or not, has national aspirations, but there are as many opinions as there are Indian nationalists as to the exact meaning of that aspiration. and more, especially as to the methods to be used to attain the end. One of the accepted and time-honored methods to attain the end is that of violence. Tolstoy's life has been devoted to replacing the method of violence for removing tyranny or securing reform by the method of non-resistance to evil. He would meet hatred expressed in violence by love expressed in self-suffering. He admits of no exception to whittle down this great and divine law of love. He applies it to all the problems that trouble mankind. India, which is the nursery of the great faiths of the world, will cease to be nationalist India. And then another quote says, "Do not resist evil, but also do not yourselves participate in evil, in the violent deeds of the administration of the law, courts, the collection of taxes, and what is more important, of the soldiers, and no one in the world will enslave you." I found that quite, interesting. And then, "Do not the figures make it clear that not the English, but the Indians have enslaved themselves?" I think Brandon might have something to say about that. "Realize the central truth of his indictment of the present system, which is to understand and act upon the irresistible power of the soul over the body of love, which is an attribute of the soul over the brute or body force generated by the stirring in us of evil passions." And then he's talking about Tolstoy's writing, and he says his logic is unassailable. It just reminds me of like how we use logic in this show to talk about these topics. And then these are just 3 quotes that precede the beginning, the first chapter. It says, "All that exists is one. People only call this one by different names, the Vedas. God is love, and he that abideth in love abideth in God, and God abideth in him." 1 John 4:16. "God is one whole, we are the parts." Exposition of the teaching of the Vedas by Vivekananda. And that is what I was reading last night before bed. Are you there, Brandon?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
It's breaking up for me. All right, I'm not breaking up.
You're fine right now. I don't hear anything though. Dang it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Dang it, it's like the old school internet.
Oh man, we're in the old school days, guys. Welcome to Spoons, Tony Coriolis, Zaralath. Those of you who have joined us, I think Quiet Sparky Bear was in here earlier. Welcome, everyone.
Hey. I hope I'm not breaking up too bad.
No, you're fine right now.
Apparently breaking up is easy to do. Okay.
I wrote that in the chat, and I said, "Are we breaking up?" And I was like, "Maybe. Oh, that sounds bad." That doesn't sound good. Brandon forgot to pay his bill. Oh my God.
Cody said I probably forgot to pay my bill.
So, well, I can pull a card and see if stuff starts looking better.
All right, well, go ahead.
You can try to talk a little bit if you want. Let's see what.
Well, is it getting any better now?
It sounds pretty good.
I know you want to pull a card. You're kind of breaking up for me though, so.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
This is
well,
funny.
As long as you can hear me.
Yeah.
It's weird.
So this is funny because I think this is the first ever card I pulled from this deck, and it's the last card. 64, nearing completion. Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Cody says, for some reason, Toyota Coriolis. What?
Frozen.
Still frozen?
Toyota Coriolis. You
Yeah,
are,
every time I
yeah, your
see the
video is on my end. Oh, there it is. Nope.
I see everything fine when I'm looking at the YouTube on my iPad. So, um,
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, it must be me for some reason.
yeah. All right. So I'll just read from the book. And it says, nearing completion, number 64, fire above, water below. The situation is incomplete, but the chaos of the past is giving way to order. The goal is in sight. Nevertheless, you are still treading on thin ice. Though the way ahead is unobstructed and the goal is clear, a cautious and careful attitude is still important, lest you slip and fall. Nearing completion is the last hexagram of the I Ching. It suggests that the ever spinning wheel of life never reaches a final conclusion. That reminds me of the 10, the wheel of fortune, right? In the tarot. Just as hidden sadness resides in the heart of true euphoria, and just as seeds of amazing achievement can sprout from a cauldron of adversity, no end is ever really complete without a new beginning stirring inside. We may divide life into categories to understand and manage it, but experience itself is seamless. The Tao's 64-spoked, timeless wheel of change is ready to spin onward, ever evolving, ever staying the same. The situation represented by this reading can be compared to taking a lengthy trek over a high mountain. At some point before reaching the peak, you can see in detail exactly how much further you have to travel. You will have a good idea of what it will take to reach the top because of the climbing experience you've accumulated thus far. However, when you do reach the peak, which has been in sight for quite a long period of sustained effort, you will have done only that. You will have reached the top and achieved your initial goal, but you still must ascend the other side. The last critical segment is what remains before completion. Consider, too, the possibility that you have little information and no experience of what it's like descending the other side of the mountain, because all your attention has been focusing on the path going up. The coming situation may seem very strange to you, unlike anything that you have experienced before. But the other side of the mountain is where the true mysteries reside. Proceed carefully, cautiously, and alertly, and you will arrive honorably at the completion of your goal. And that reminds me of the hikes that Cody and I did this past weekend in Flagstaff and Sedona, because we didn't know we'd never done these hikes before. And we didn't really know kind of exactly how things were going to be when we got to the mountain, to the mountaintop, right? Or the end of the trail. And they were interesting. One was very, very interesting. We got to a place where there's like a natural bridge in the rock, and people will like take the low trail and then hike up to see that natural bridge, right? But beyond that, you can keep going and you can actually walk on top of the bridge. But that was kind of you were kind of holding on to the wall of the rock as you kind of scooched over until you got to the place where there was more space to walk, and then you could walk on the natural bridge. So there were moments of like, this is like the cliff is right there. I'm not gonna fall. I'm not gonna fall,
How
But
high was it?
um I don't know. Good question. I didn't look up how high it was from the bottom, but
Like a couple 100 feet, you think?
um maybe not that high. It's from the very bottom, maybe, but not from the little part where the natural bridge was located. It was just like there was some little narrow spots and tight spots right against the cliff. And like, if you slipped, you could really slip all the way down. Not all the way down, but like a good ways down. So that was interesting and fun.
It's going to be rough.
But yeah.
That sounds amazing, though. I
Yeah, it was. It
love that
was.
stuff out there. Arizona is so beautiful. Arizona.
Yeah. You're still breaking up a little bit.
Awesome. Well, great card. I like that.
Tony Coriolis asks Tonto Natural
I
Bridge.
was gonna suggest
I don't
maybe
that I read most of them or what?
no, I was gonna say that I could try to back out and come back in, but since I'm the one who's live streaming, I don't know if it'll end the live stream.
Oh, true. Ugh. Yeah. Well, maybe do a little deep breathing
Is it better
and
if I
like imagine that everything's okay
let me
and
try to
the
stop my
ethers
video for a
are
little bit?
working properly? Okay, so Tony Corley,
Is this any better?
Tony
Can you hear me
Coriolis.
better now?
Yeah, I can hear you better. Do you want to do without your face? Without your animated
Well, I
face?
could when we're reading and stuff, I totally can.
Oh, I see. Good call.
When we're reading, I guess when we're reading parts of the Tao, I could do that because this way
Okay.
you don't have to see me anyway.
Okay. I mean, I
Hello?
think when you do that, it makes
Hey,
me
hey,
like the
hey.
main. I can hear you. So when you do that, it makes me the main person um on the thing. Does that make sense?
Oh, you're the only one up there when I do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't show my.
You can fix it though, I'm
Okay.
sure. There's probably an option.
Yeah, I think so. Let's see.
So anyway, I was
Oh,
just
hide
gonna you
non-video
while you do
participant.
that, I was just gonna comment on Tony's message. He said Tonto National Bridge. I honestly don't think that's what it was called. Maybe Cody remembers. I kind of don't want to say the trail because it was kind of a quiet one. Okay, I'll say it. It was called the Fay Canyon Trail. So I don't our show doesn't get like volumes of people. So it's called the Fay Canyon Trail and it has like a little
I didn't
offshoot.
hear you. What
Oh,
was the name of it?
Fay Canyon Trail, but I don't know the name of the actual bridge.
Hmm.
So what would you like to do?
Maybe Tony knows.
Tony
All right. Well, can
Coriolis?
you hear me? Am I good?
I can hear you. Do you want to share the screen or do you want me
Okay.
to?
I'm gonna yeah, let's see. I'm gonna stop my video and then I'm gonna share the screen and see what happens. Can you still hear me finally? Fine, I mean.
I can hear you right now.
Perfect. All right, so we're going to be doing verses 31 and 32 today of the Tao Te Ching. And the way we always do it is we go through and read all four versions that we have, and then we go break them down. So I'm going to read the first part from Stephen Mitchell from 1988. Weapons are the tools of violence. All decent men detest them. Weapons are the tools of fear. Decent men will avoid them, except in the direct necessity. I'm sorry, in the direst
Direst.
necessity. And if compelled, will use. Yeah, I think I just didn't. I like fixed it, but then I heard you say it after, so maybe you might be. I might be getting a delay to you.
You're getting a delay. You're the like because
Or
when I'm talking,
like
I'm
your voice
talking.
might be delayed for me as well.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
All right. All right. So, if compelled, we'll use them only with the utmost restraint. I'm still good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, peace is his highest value. If the peace has been shattered, how can he be content? His enemies are not demons, but human beings like himself. He doesn't wish them personal harm, nor does he rejoice in victory. How could he rejoice in victory and delight in the slaughter of men? He enters a battle gravely, with sorrow and with great compassion, as if he were attending a funeral.
Okay. I will read Dwight Goddard. It says, avoiding war. Sorry, 1 second here. I need to adjust my screen. All right. Even successful arms among all implements. Okay, Dwight Goddard calls this avoiding war. Even successful arms among all implements are unblessed. All men come to detest them. Therefore, the one who follows Tao does not rely on them. Arms are, of all tools, unblessed. They are not the implements of a wise man. Only as a last resort does he use them. Peace and quietude are esteemed by the wise man, and even when victorious, he does not rejoice, because rejoicing over victory is the same as rejoicing over the killing of men. If he rejoices over killing men, do you think he will ever master the empire? In propitious affairs, the place of honor is the left, but in unpropitious affairs, we honor the right. The strong man, while at home, esteems the left as the place of honor, but when armed for war, it is as though he esteems the right hand, the place of less honor. Thus a funeral ceremony is so arranged. The place of a subordinate army officer is also on the left, and the place of his superior officer is on the right. The killing of men fills multitudes with sorrow. We lament with tears because of it, and rightly honor the victor as if he were attending a funeral ceremony. And I know it says was attending, but that's not correct grammar. So I corrected it in my speech.
Aha. Good for you. Is my talking lining up with your talking? Because you were coming in late to me, so I just want to make sure it makes sense.
It's fine. I'll just let you read.
Okay, cool. Stan Rosenthal from 1984, maintaining peace. Weapons of war are instruments of fear and are abhorred by those who follow the Tao. The leader who follows the natural way does not abide them. The warrior king leans to his right, from whence there comes his general's advice. But the peaceful king looks to his left, where sits his counselor of peace. When he looks to his left, it is the same. It is a time of peace, and when he looks to the right, a time for sorrow. Weapons of war are instruments of fear, and are not favored by the wise, who use them only when there is no choice. For peace and stillness are dear to their hearts, and victory causes them no rejoicing. To rejoice in victory is to delight in killing. To delight in killing is to have no self-being. The conduct of war is that of a funeral. When people are killed, it is a time of mourning. This is why even victorious battle should be observed without rejoicing. Nice.
All right. Before I read that, I'm going to comment that it was a little bit difficult to break these up because I felt like when they're writing this, it's not like line by line. It's not like word for word, sentence by sentence, line by line. It's not even like thought by thought. They're more like giving a general sense of the whole verse, and they're moving things around. Like, you know how sometimes we'll read one line on one and one on the other, and they're like almost identical or very similar. In this case, they kind of move around. So I just want you to know that some people speak of different things in the different part of the, and some of them don't speak of it at all. So we'll see. All right, I'll read Aleister Crowley, since it's O.W. Crowley.
Sounds good.
And that is a kind of a side note from the show Good Omens that I've been watching with Cody. It's funny that Brandon talked about. So anyway, he entitles this verse 31, Composing Quarrel. Arms, though they be beautiful, are of ill omen, abominable to all created beings. They who have the Tao love not their use. The place of honor is on the right in wartime, so thinketh the man of distinction. Sharp weapons are ill-omened, unworthy of such a man. He uses them only in necessity. He values peace and ease, desires not to violence of victory. To desire victory is to desire the death of men, and to desire that is to fail to propitiate the people. At feasts, the left hand is the high seat. At funerals, the right. The second in command of the army leadeth the left wing, the commander-in-chief, the right wing. It is as if the battle were a rite of mourning. He who hath slain most men should weep for them most bitterly. So then the place of the victor is assigned to him with philosophical propriety. And yes, I did change the he that to he who because they're talking about a person, and grammatically you say who in that case. So
you're still kind of breaking it up for me. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, you're still delayed when we're talking. So we'll just maybe work with that delay, I guess.
Okay. As long as no one's complaining in the chat that it's too bad.
No, we got 7 people. So hopefully it's going well. Shall we go with Stephen Mitchell?
All right. Well, let's see. We'll do this. I'll start my video, see if it's any better. Yeah, we want to break that one down.
Sure. Oh, all right. Stephen Mitchell, you want to start?
Yeah, I'm just sharing the screen. I don't know if it was already shared. Okay, so Stephen Mitchell from 1988. The first part of this are weapons are the tools of violence. All decent men detest them.
Oh, your
weapons are the tools of fear. A decent man will avoid them. Oh, you can see it now. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Maybe you should share it then. I don't know. Unless no, it's okay. We were going to do that earlier, but it seemed to be working. I mean, you suggested it earlier, but it seemed to be working, but maybe we should go to that.
Okay, after this.
So weapons are the tools of fear. A decent man will avoid them except in the direst necessity. Okay. If compelled, we'll use them only with the utmost restraint. All right, so maybe you should do it now. See what happens. But I could keep
all right, you can undo it and we can talk about it.
Ow. So yeah.
Do you want to pop out? Do you think it
well, the one thing I wanted to say really about this is I don't know. I mean, I guess we could try it. I'll make you the captain of the ship. Let's see. If it screws it up, we could just start it again.
It's going to be kind of a pain in the butt, though, right? Because we're going to have like two.
I don't know. Hang on. I mean, it might be a pain in the butt, but I don't think we'll be able to go on this way because right now it's like I can't even see you. And I don't know if you're talking. Am I talking to myself? You're the host now. All right, I'm going to try to pop out and see what happens. All right, let's see. Where's my...
In the meantime, I will talk a little bit about what this verse was making me think of. And Brandon doesn't know or hear about this because I hadn't told him. But as I was reading that, when I was putting these slides together, it says, weapons are the tools of violence. All decent men detest them. Weapons are the tools of fear. A decent man will avoid them, except in the direst necessity, and if compelled, will use them only with the utmost restraint. And it reminded me of something in the Law of One, where Ra discusses the grasping opposable thumbs of people here on Earth and how that is what made them more prone to tool making. So let me see if Brandon is back online. Let's see. Let's hear you, B. Brandon. I saw you come back in. I requested you to unmute. There you are.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know why I came back and muted.
Oh, wow. You're back.
Is this not working?
Yeah, it's good. Am I still
I'm back.
delayed?
Oh,
Is it,
okay.
is it still delayed?
It's a little choppy, but it's way better than it was.
Okay,
I don't know.
good.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh no. No, okay.
It's just a little bit
Okay.
delayed, just a little bit choppy, but we'll work with it. All right, so I'll just
How
finish up
strange.
what I was saying, and then you can give us your commentary. So I was talking about how this particular verse reminded me of the Law of One, where Ra discusses the grasping and opposable thumbs that we have here on Earth. These, that make us more prone to tool making. And then when you have tools, I mean, it's like it's alluding to the creation of weapons, things like that. So
Yeah. Because a weapon is a sort of a tool, right? I
yeah,
think they're still
but
going.
yeah, go ahead. You talk about your.
Oh, I was just going to say that I think weapons are some kind of tool. And what the thing that really grabs me about this verse is the direst need thing, because I feel like most people um, naturally, without a bunch of uh, propaganda and television and growing up the way we do, I think most people would feel this way about war, that it's something only in the direst need that you need to do. But I feel like slowly but surely the Overton window has been like pushed over to where now war is just like a natural thing. I mean, I remember in 1989, 1990, when we were going to do Gulf War One. I think I was in high school. I got in high school in 90, so maybe I was in high school. But it was like this huge thing. Everybody's like, whoa, we're going to go to war. And they had to make sure, like even the government was like, we're only going to go in there to kick Saddam out of Kuwait. Everything's going to be fine. Don't worry. And people were actually conscious of it because Vietnam was such a, like a shadow on our past. And it only in 1989, 1990, Vietnam was only like 14, what, it ended in 75 or 76 or something. So it wasn't that long. People can remember it. And I feel like these days, though, now it's just like, oh, we're just going to go invade another country. People probably don't even know all the countries that we're in. And they probably couldn't name all the countries that we have a significant U.S. occupational force going on. So it's funny to me because that's why I love that we're breaking these verses down, because people's perceptions could be off and they could be like, oh yeah, we only engage in war at the direst need in the United States. Like we need to go to Yemen to like drop bombs. Like so it's something I just wanted to bring up because I feel like the things we're going to be talking about, um, this might be one of the misunderstood ones because people are like, what, you're not ever supposed to go to war to defend yourself or things like that because it says that like weapons are terrible. But I love how it leaves that little loophole open, the direst of need. And I feel like that's more of like a defensive war. If you have some property or a land or a country or whatever, and other people are coming like pirates or people are coming to try to rob you or take you over, then I feel like you're totally justified in picking up some weapons and defending yourself.
I
How'd that
also
sound?
want to point out some things. I'm letting Brandon wait. I'm waiting for Brandon to hear me. Because there's something that we've
Okay, I
talked
heard
about
you. Go ahead.
before on the show, and it's this concept of Brandon says I'm not a hippie, I'm a heathen, right? And he jokes about how it's because, he's not about the like he is about self-defense, in times of like this dire necessity. So I just want to preface this discussion with, it's all about a happy medium, like a balance, right? It's not the new age extreme of like just let yourself get walked all over. I mean, I I get it. If somebody is for a complete
Oh, no.
nonviolence of like, I'm
You're
not
like,
going to let myself get walked all over, I get it. But there are people who are like, it's natural law for me to defend myself if something were to come against me. And I see both sides. So like it's like no judgment on those who are going to practice that. Me personally, I'm the type of person that's like, I just don't see any of that in my field. And so I don't expect that that's going to happen to me. So I'm just like, I trust God. I trust the all father, that I am divinely protected and that whatever's meant to happen to me will happen to me. And if I'm in a place, a certain place and time where I have no means or way of defending myself, and that's how I'm meant to go, then I'm meant to go that way. You know what I mean? So like I see both sides. But anyway, that was just my little side note to this whole discussion.
yeah, I think that's really important. To me, you just stop talking now. So if there's a delay, that's how long it is. As soon as I started talking is when you stopped. Yeah, I think that's a very, very valid point. I think it's just like we say, everybody has their own worldview. Everybody has, this is part of it, right? And we're just trying to align our own worldviews with the Tao during in this episode. So I think it's going to mean something different for every single person about weapons or any of this stuff. Because you could look at, the parable where there was like a guy stuck on his roof and it was raining. And so the firemen showed up and they're like, we're going to save you. And he's like, no, I'm waiting on God. So then like a boat shows up because the water gets so high. And he's like, come on, we're going to save you. He's like, no, I'm praying to God. And then like a helicopter shows up and the guy's like, no, I'm good. I'm waiting for God. And then the guy dies and goes to heaven. He's like, God, why didn't you save me? He's like, I sent firefighters, a boat, and a freaking helicopter. And you didn't.
I did save you. You're
That's
now
kind of,
back with me.
oh, good. So I think that that's how I look at this situation, and that's one of the reasons why I might, if I do ever carry a firearm with me, it would be a situation like that. And again, I've said this before, like I don't think everybody should carry one if they don't want to or don't feel comfortable. Or I'm not like one of these people who thinks that like everyone should carry one because I feel like maybe that's an idealistic society, but that's not the society we live in. We have to kind of just adapt our own ways to the society that we live in and live accordance with the natural or with like the golden rule or natural law as much as we can um, in the framework of that society if we choose to live in a city or a town or in a neighborhood go to stores and stuff like that. So I feel like there is no one exterior answer. we just kind of have to fit in each in our own way the best way we can.
Absolutely. But I can read the next one. It's Dwight Goddard. Avoiding war. Actually, I'm gonna need to show the slides, aren't I? So that hopefully this goes a little better. So let me try that.
If you can.
Let's see. Is it this
All right, I'm gonna shut my video off, but I'm still here.
one? Okay. All right, I have to move things around because there's weird spots on here that make it hard to see. All right. Okay, oops, I gotta find my way over to the right verse. Pardon all of this, you guys. Thanks for being patient with us.
I think you could get rid of that side box too.
Yeah. I just use it to like navigate, but yes, I can. Oops.
Oh gosh, all right.
I can hide. All right. We're still here on verse 31, right? Like, where are we? I'm distracted today. Okay. Sorry, everyone. Welcome, Gordy and Z. I'm trying to do this, so I can't read your comments. Maybe Brandon can comment later. All right.
What's up, Gordy? What's up, Zerlath? What's up? Oh, Spoons. What's up? Obviously, Tony Barry said hi to him. Are we overlapping again?
That's okay. All right. I'll start reading. Dwight Goddard, verse 31. Avoiding war. Even successful arms among all implements are unblessed. All men come to detest them. Therefore, the one who follows Tao does not rely on them. Arms are, of all tools, unblessed. They are not the implements of a wise man. Only as a last resort does he use them. So it is clear to see that even when Dwight is talking about these tools, which I spoke of because the law of one also speaks of these tools, he's being overly, how shall we say, he's basically saying you are not a wise man, but I think he's being what's the word I'm looking for? When you're like being overly sarcastic, not the word, but anyway, he's overstating it because in the end he says only as a last resort. So again, it's like they're not evil in and of themselves. They are tools in the end. And you will use them. If you are wise, you will use them only as a last resort. So I don't know if Brandon has any comments on that.
Yeah, what I would say is, you can hear me and everything's good.
Yeah.
What I'll say is that again, it's the society that we live in, right? So, somebody can look at the Dow and be like, oh, you should never, you should never have weapons or carry weapons or whatever. But I think you really have to look, and like I said before, you have to try to fit into the best time and place where you live right now and just live, close to the Dow as you can with this stuff. And then just know that, it's not a good thing to like love your weapons and want to use them all the time now. I mean, it might be good to get practice with them if you're going to have them. Definitely want to be safe and know what you're doing, but it doesn't mean that you have to like brag about them and lust after your guns all the time and all this stuff. I think that's really what they're alluding to as far as our society goes, because again, they wrote this, years ago before guns were probably even invented. So they're probably talking more about swords and spears and stuff like that. But again,
Good call.
the weapons that we have, handguns and stuff like that, it's just like an evolution, right? A proper evolution, which an evolution you can point to that has evidence from going to like, maybe a stick to some kind of spear or a sword or a knife, and then eventually guns and cannons and stuff like that. But I think that's something you have to keep in mind as well, because I think just possessing the weapons themselves isn't the thing that they're talking about, right? It's the use of them. But if you feel like you might need to use one day, or you want to have it for some sort of protection, I think that you should practice with it and you should be proficient with it. And again, like I said, we're not in the kind of society, I guess, like Sharon said, you could just, if that's your proper outlook and you think everything's going to be fine and it's going to be great, and you don't have to worry about it, that's your thing. I'm all for it, go ahead and do that. But if you are going to choose to have weapons and train with them and stuff, then I think you should take it very seriously and know what that's all about. And the best part is really just by knowing yourself. Like we talk about all the time, everything comes down to self knowledge. If you know yourself better and you know yourself really well, there's less of a chance that you're going to do something that you're going to regret later. I'm going to try to bring my video back in. There's less of a chance you're going to do something later that you're going to regret, like out of anger or whatever. Because if you are carrying a weapon, and I think we've talked about this too, you can get yourself into trouble because you'll be saying to yourself, oh, it's cool, I got a gun, I could do this. If I need to, I'll just pull it out. And by doing that, you're making another possibility of something that can happen, and it's something that you don't want to. So it's more like forgetting that you have it, or kind of ignoring it and just doing your normal thing, and then it's there just like a tool on your belt in case you need it. And I think this is probably one of the most controversial lines of the Tao that I can think of. Maybe the world is perfect. I mean, that's pretty controversial for people, but this
That
one
was
as
last
well,
week.
especially people who are, yeah, especially people who are like super into the Second Amendment and guns and stuff. They might look at this and be like, oh, they don't know the real world. But I think, again, it's more about the spiritual world. Are you carrying these weapons? Maybe they're talking about carrying them in your mind. Are you constantly thinking about it? Are you like, oh man, I hope someone tries something, or if someone cuts you off in traffic or is being rude, do you like speed up next to them and try to cut them off and start shit because you know that, worst case scenario, I got my gun. So yeah.
We talked about this in a previous episode and speaking of which, I think the delay is much better. It's probably not as long.
Yeah, it
But
seems better now.
oh,
Thank you guys for hanging
I think
out
it's
with
almost
us.
gone. Oh God,
Yeah.
thank God.
All right.
But it just reminded me when you were talking about what you were just talking about, it reminded me of when I was in those movements of like sovereignty and things like that, where they're constantly memorizing and practicing what they're going to say if they get stopped, by, a peace officer, allegedly. And these just like these it's like, well, you're imagining the situation already happening, so could it be that you're manifesting it by already imagining it? So it reminds me of that. And
I mean, I think it could be easily argued, even if people don't believe in manifestation. I think logically it could be argued if it's in your
energy.
energy, or if it's just in your mind as a possibility for something that can happen, then you're going to make it a possibility, even if it's a small percentage of something happening. But if you're focused on it, and I know we've talked about this a bunch, but you're like memorizing all these things you have to say in case you get pulled over. And I'm not disparaging anybody. I know there's people out there that like to run without license plates or registration or insurance or any of that stuff. And God bless you, man. If you can get away with it, freaking do it. But I think some people, depending on where you live, maybe if you live like in a rural situation, the cops won't give a crap as much. But I think the problem is, especially for them, is they see it as like a slap in the face to them for the first, A, and then B, they also see that other people are going to see you doing it, and they're afraid that it's going to spread. So I'm not telling anyone to do it or not do it, but I think, again, as with everything else, whatever is comfortable for your level of doing things. And I think if you want to make the situation better, it comes back again, like I said, knowing yourself, working on yourself, do more self work, whatever it is, shadow work, meditation, whatever works for you. And I think that it'll become more clear to you as the synchronicities line up and all that stuff. Um, because when I first heard about this stuff, like the 5-star passport and these different IDs that you can get where you don't have to worry about the police, they can't mess with you and all stuff. And I was like, wow, that's great. I was like trying to figure out how to do it. But now, as I'm, as a few years pass by and I see it, it's not as appealing to me. Honestly, it's easier for me to just register my car and pay a little insurance uh, to not. It's easier for me to do that than just to deal with the police on a constant basis, especially around here because there's so many police. And somebody might say, "Oh, that's the easy way out," or whatever. But honestly, I can use that time instead of fighting with the police to do better things. I mean, I don't really suggest in Connecticut, maybe some rural parts. But again, if you figure it out and you're doing it and you're not having any problems, hit me up and let me know how it's done because I'd be down.
Mm.
Um, but I think right
I
now this
concur.
movement is still like at its infancy and they're just crushing it. And one last thing I want to say is like my parents used to watch a lot of those court shows and the just court drama, like the real ones though, like the not like the People's Court and all that stuff, but like ones that films of court actually happening. And they every once in a while would throw in somebody who was like calling themselves a sovereign citizen or this or that, and they, of course, because it's TV, they just add whatever they want to it. But I feel like they're trying to scare the public, right? Because it's on their radar and they are aware of this stuff.
Oh
That's why
yeah.
it shows up in the TV. So people are just, so who knows? Maybe even police officers might have a warning now. So if you try to say to them, "Oh, I'm not a citizen. I'm just a man," they might be like, "What?" And then the alarms go off and all this stuff happens. So I really feel like you got to pick your battles when it comes to this stuff, especially if you have a family or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. I concur. And the other thing I was going to say, because there's a line there that Dwight Goddard says, therefore the one who follows Tao does not rely on them, and he means implements or tools. And you mentioned this, but I was also thinking of like attachments. Like if you're attached to it, it could be anything. It's not just weapons, but it could be anything that you're attached to, you know. Apply that. Apply that to anything you're attached to.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's really what the Tao is all about, is like attachment and stuff. And of course, they got to talk about war and weapons because war seems to be one of these things in our age anyway that really plagues us. So, they got to deal with it. And I feel like if you're going to write something that you want to be timeless and everybody can kind of understand it, this is really the best way to do it. It's like in the direst of dire needs, and stop changing the meanings of words. That's what they're saying. They're like, dire, this is what it means. It means like life or death. Like people are coming to get you. It doesn't mean that other people across the ocean have resources that you'd like to secure or whatever. There's a country over there that you're aligned with and you got to protect them, not mentioning any names. You know what I mean? No, that's not a dire need. Like those guys could protect themselves if they weren't acting where they're pissing all their neighbors off, maybe they wouldn't need help. you know, I don't know. I don't.
Um,
I mean, I'm just a
the
Marine who studied like tons of uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Foreign policy and stuff. So what do I know? But anyway, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was just say if you want, we can start the next verse or the next translation of the verse. And
I could
if you
try
want, I
to.
can. You want to try to share?
Yeah, let me see if it'll. There we go.
There's no delay
You
anymore,
can still hear
so
me, right?
yep.
Okay, cool. All right, Stan Rosenthal, 1984. Maintaining peace. Weapons of war are instruments of fear and are abhorred. There we go. Let me try this again. And are abhorred by those who follow the Tao. The leader who
Mm,
follows the natural way does not abide them. And I feel like this is pretty much saying the same thing that the other verses are saying, just in a different way, more modern, maybe.
mhm. I like the word fear, you know, instruments
Yeah,
of
I
fear.
like that they calling them instruments of fear. Yes, because honestly, really, what is a weapon of war, right? What are nuclear weapons, right? Right. I mean, we all know it's probably not real, but if they were real, or the idea of them, um,
The idea
nuclear
of
weapons,
them is to put fear into you.
yes, to put fear into you and to not question why there aren't any giant world wars anymore and why people aren't trying to get, why isn't anyone trying to restructure Europe? I guess they're happy with it. Well, this is maybe what happened. The people that are in control, and we don't really talk about this stuff a lot because God bless the people in control. I wouldn't want to be one of them. It sounds like a freaking nightmare trying to control these people. I can't even go to the store and control people in front of me, like, get away from me. No, lady, I won't get that thing on the top shelf. Just kidding. I'm a giant, so I'm always getting people are like, can you grab that for me? But there's my rant. But anyway, uh, what was I? I totally lost my train of thought with the. I was gonna make a good point. I promise.
I'm not going to
Web.
do what you tell me. Something about you can't control the people in the store, let alone.
Oh, the people at the top, right? So okay, so they're restructuring. All right, so look at World War I, World War II is like a restructuring of Europe, right? Well, how come Europe hasn't been restructured since
Again.
1944, 45? Because everyone's got nukes, right? And everyone's afraid, and they accept that there's not going to be a giant war. So it has that double-edged sword. Yes, it keeps everybody in fear. I remember we used to have those nuclear drills or whatever. My dad, I think I was talking to him, he had them. We don't know if we had nuclear drills, but yeah, he's like, yeah, they told us to get under the desk. And I'm like, some wood? How's that going to work out for you? And he's laughing. He's like, yeah, right. I'm like, yeah, it's bullshit, isn't it? He's like, yeah, kind of. I'd rather die next to somebody else than under my bed. I was going to just be vaporized. I mean, under my desk at school. So yeah, I think they are instruments of fear is really the point I was trying to make. Any kind of weapon can be an instrument of fear. Now it can also be an instrument of your salvation if you get attacked and there's only you and you have a weapon or whatever. But I feel like overall that's what they're meant. Any kind of weapon of war, that's what it's meant to do, is to inspire fear. And it really is just the knowledge that that weapon exists that stops a lot of different confrontations. So it's something to
Mhm.
look at both sides of.
Yeah. So, like, if you open carry, it might stop. I'm just kidding. A confrontation. Just kidding.
Yeah, yeah, it's
I'm kidding.
possible. The,
I'm
the open,
kidding.
yeah, yeah, no, yeah. That's a tough one because you're by yourself and everyone knows that you have a gun. If you're with a few people, maybe it's different. But yeah, and now in Connecticut, you can't open carry anymore. They just passed a law like last year. Used to be able to, well, the thing forever was you can get a permit, but you had to keep it concealed. And if this has been since like the 80s and the 90s, and if somebody saw it, you can get in trouble and all this stuff. Well, I think in the early 2000s, some guy was at a restaurant in Connecticut and his gun showed, and one of the waitresses just saw that he had a gun and called the cops and said there was a guy here with a gun, and the cops busted in and threw the guy in the ground and all this stuff. So the guy got a lawyer and sued and he won. And they found out that, like, if you have a permit in Connecticut, it is a permit to carry and you can open carry if you want. So everyone was open carrying, and then they just passed this fucking law, but whatever, it's fine. So now you can still carry concealed if you have a permit, but they're cool though if it shows or if it flashes. That's not considered open carry. Like if you purposely flash it, that's different. But if your shirt comes up and people see it, it's not considered open carrying, and you won't get in trouble for that. So that's cool.
That's
I'm just gonna
cool.
wear a plastic clear shirt. I got a shirt on. It's concealed.
A veiled shirt, one of those like see-through shirts.
Yeah, it's concealed from the rain. Like, what do you mean?
Oh, all right. Well, let's go to Aleister Crowley.
Yeah, I'll bring it up. Here we go.
All right. One more down, right?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
No
There
worries. All right. He calls it composing quarrel. Interesting. I don't know what he means by that. Arms, though they be beautiful, are of ill omen, abominable to all created beings, They who have the Tao love not their use. And I'm guessing that when he says love not their use, he's again talking about attachment. He's not attached. So whether he has it with him or not, it's okay. If he does use it, it's because he's happens to be using it. He's either at the gun range and he's practicing or whatever, but he's not attached to having it with him at all times or defending himself at all times or, that sort of thing.
Or where you see some people that kill people and then they like to kill people after a while. Like it's something that might happen in war to people or whatever. Instead of getting PTSD, it might turn into a serial killer or whatever. And that, that's where it might have started off small. They might have even hated at first trying to use their weapon in a war, and then they just got used to it. So again, it's all about knowing yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the attachments and stuff and where they can lead. And it really just reminds me of what we talk about when we talk about the concept of evacuating your cockpit, when you just don't really give it attention or whatever, and your body or your whatever it is just does things like anything that's can be considered what's the word I'm looking for? Dangerous behavior, I guess, addictive behavior. That's the one I'm working for. So it's kind of like you just you resort back into the addictive behavior. And I think it's possible you could get addicted to weapons or maybe even hurting or killing people or just having that power. Because at the end of the day, weapons of war do give you power. And even if even if the power is not as much as you think, if your ego is overinflated about it, you're just going to live in that whole vibration, that state of mind.
Indeed. Shall
Weapons.
we continue?
Yes, let's do it. Maybe you should share because when I shared, it started to break up a little bit on my end.
Okay, I will do that.
Sharon.
Share alike.
Yeah, so I think the first part of the verse is pretty self-explanatory once we obviously broke it down.
All right, how's that? You guys see it?
Is it not, Sharon?
You see it all right?
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
Brandon's going to read the second part. You want to read both, second and third?
Yeah, I might as well.
Okay.
Okay, so we're just talking about weapons, right? And our second part is peace is his highest value. If the peace has been shattered, how can he be content? His enemies are not demons, but human beings like himself. He doesn't wish them personal harm, nor does he rejoice in victory. How could he rejoice in victory and delight in the slaughter of men? So I'm going to read the next part too, but I just wanted to comment. I think this is huge because, all the TVs and the shows and even the books and everything we read, every time they win a war, everybody's like just having a big party at the end, right? So this is going against all that stuff. And I feel like this could be more of the spiritual level thing, like you were talking about, Sharon, earlier. He doesn't wish them personal harm, nor does he rejoice in victory. So the rejoicing in victory, I mean, if if a bunch of people that were that were coming to steal your land or take over your whatever country, if you fought them back and it was a hard fight, I think that maybe you could have some kind of celebration or whatever. But again, it's more about rejoicing in your heart, right? And getting excited about it, and then getting a taste for it for the war. There was a practice that I've heard about, and this is something I think I heard from Michael Tessarion when I was looking at tarot cards, and he talks about the Four Swords and the Rider Waite, where it looks like a tomb of a guy or like a casket maybe or something, like a box of body lies in. There's swords, right? And their interpretation was after a battle, a knight that would survive this medieval battle in certain cultures would lay in the coffin that he was going to be laid in if he died, to reflect. Now that to me sounds like a much healthier way of dealing with war after it. Is silent reflection and a moment of silence for this stuff. I think that would be much better than having like a giant parade and everybody getting wasted. But again, I'm not judging anyone. I've never been in a war like that, so I don't know what it's like. But I think this is what the Tao is talking about, right? Quiet reflection and not delighting in the slaughter of men. The second part, he enters a battle gravely with sorrow and with great compassion, as if he were attending a funeral. That pretty much sums up what I said, really, about the whole about knights and what they do after battle.
Do you want me to show the card?
Yeah, unshare your screen.
Oh, duh. It's me.
It's okay.
No wonder you couldn't see what I was sharing. I was wondering why.
There it is. Yep. Exactly. So he looks like he's laying on some kind of casket or whatever with a gold statue of himself. So they would actually lay inside that. So that's why you have the three swords above him and the one that's in the tomb itself, because that's the one he's contemplating on right now. You know, you might have four swords with that, like with anything else, but what made it the four is that extra one. So the other three are kind of like a support to that four. And it really is, I feel like, a time for uh not celebrating and
Yeah,
just
it's
killing.
what is the what's the word I'm looking for? Not morose, but like
I
just
know.
reverence, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like a reverence for that moment.
Yep. I mean, you never know the other story of the guy on the other side of the battle, why he's there to fight you and what circumstances led him there. So, you're killing him, but it might be that his family was held hostage or whatever. So you're just celebrating this guy you killed. His family was like held hostage because he had to fight you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just, you don't know how far you're celebrating. And that again, it's a slippery slope that leads people to like it. And then they might be like, oh, maybe we should start a little militia, or we'll start our own army just in case. And then all of a sudden the land next to you is like, oh, they got a lot of cool stuff, maybe we could just send a expeditionary unit over there and get some of it with this army. That was a thing, a problem in the ancient world. Allegedly, I wasn't there, but if you listen to a lot of scholars, they'll tell you, like, the times of the Greeks and the Romans and stuff, people would have these giant armies. I mean, I think it's even pretty well known that in Rome you couldn't bring your army, like a general couldn't bring his army into the city. And it's that whole concept because, I mean, not only would it give that general more power and maybe take over, but just the guys that are soldiers standing around with nothing to do, it's not a good idea. Like, any military base that I've been on that's not in like a major city, like if it's just out in the middle of nowhere, everything that sprouts up around it is what you would imagine. Like, there's a lot of strip clubs and bars and gun stores and stuff like that, right? People have to, it's kind of like the ghetto. It just reminds me of liquor store, gun store, liquor store. Where are you taking me? That's a Dave Chappelle joke. But that's really kind of what it reminds me of. And if you have a lot of men, or just people in general, it doesn't just have to be men, that are trained killers and they're just sitting around with nothing to do, it's not a good time. That's why I think the best warriors are the ones that it's just part of who they are. Uh, that probably, I didn't probably say that right. They just make like a warrior priest or whatever. Like, it's just one. Um, Not that it's a part of who you are, but it's just one facet of who you are. If you need to switch into warrior mode, if something happens, you're there. But that's not who you are. You're not identifying as a warrior, or as somebody that's in the army.
Oh yeah. 11 in the chat. Welcome
Nice.
PK and MS.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
What's up, everybody?
all right. You're sharing again?
Yep.
Verse 31, Dwight Goddard. Wait,
I don't know why it keeps switching pages on me. That's so weird.
yeah, I don't know why either.
Because I just read the yeah, I did that last time too. That's funny. Maybe I scrolled and I didn't realize.
Yeah,
All right.
maybe. Okay. All right, let's see. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Peace and quietude are esteemed by the wise man, and even when victorious, he does not rejoice. There we go. because rejoicing over a victory is the same as rejoicing over the killing of men, just what we were talking about. If he rejoices over killing men, do you think he will ever really master the empire? In propitious affairs, and just so everyone knows, I looked up the word propitious, and it is
Unpropitious?
presenting favorable conditions. So it is favorable.
Well, is that propitious though? Because it's unpropitious, right? I mean,
Oh, the first one says in propitious affairs, so in favorable affairs.
oh, I was looking down, my bad.
No worries. The place of honor is the left, but in unpropitious affairs or unfavorable affairs, we honor the right. The strong man, while at home, esteems the left as a place of honor, but when armed for war, it is as though he esteems the right hand, the place of less honor. And I'll say that when I read this the first time, as I was trying to figure out the verses and splitting them up, I didn't really quite understand what he was saying. But when I read Aleister Crowley's, I was like, oh, okay, got it. Makes sense. So we'll see that in a second. Thus, a funeral ceremony is so arranged. The place of a subordinate army officer is also on the left, and the place of a superior officer on the right. The killing of men fills multitudes with sorrow. We lament with tears because of it, and rightly honor the victor as if he were attending a funeral ceremony. What do you think he means by we honor the victor as if he were attending a funeral ceremony? And says we rightly honor.
Yeah, I would say it's the same kind of thing that Stephen Mitchell says when he says he enters a battle gravely with sorrow and great compassion as if he were attending a funeral. So the same thing with whoever wins, you're not like throwing a party for them. You are treating them as if they were attending a funeral with, with reverence and respect.
Yes, indeed.
And you're not like congratulating about his killing, like.
Right.
How many farmers did you kill? No.
Terrible.
That's what I mean. Like all this stuff applies great when they're coming to get you, but then when it's your army that's on foreign soil, like Vietnam. I mean, you could name a million of them, but when you really look into what that war was all about, and if you ever do a deep dive into it, you see in it, it just blows your mind the way that they spin it for the American public to accept it, which they didn't accept it very well anyway. We could all see how that ended up, but they seem to be accepting the wars that are going on now. Fine, I guess. I'm not that I pay attention to anything, but I don't see anyone out there getting pissed off that we're at war. So good for them.
Yeah. Ready for the next
I wonder if that's why you think that's. I mean, I guess back then they did party pretty hard, but they raised the drinking age to 21 because back then, during Vietnam or whatever, the drinking age was 18. And they even raised
Europe,
the smoking
right?
age here in Connecticut to 21. You have to be 21 to buy cigarettes.
Oh, wow.
So I guess it's well, I know I don't even know Europe how it is now. Back when I was there in the 90s, it was pretty much anything goes, but I'm sure now it's different. But what I think what it does though is it makes people want to drink more. People who are like in that high school to college range, it makes them want to drink more, and it's not like they can't get alcohol. So, I mean, every time I went to a DJ'd or whatever, did some kind of college thing or DJ'd at a bar, people are just hammered. So if you think about, it's crazy how the alcohol or just the partying lifestyle basically eradicated all the way colleges used to be with like protests and stuff like that. I'm sure you still get some protests or whatever, but not like we used to, right? And I yeah, fake ones or just ones that are like, we're having a rally for peace. It's like, all right. I mean, that's great. I don't know. I'm just being judgmental jerk now, but with like an actual focus and they have an idea of they know what they want to do. They're not just like sitting around saying, "Hey, let's vote for Obama. He said it's going to be peace," And maybe because the people in colleges these days, they're pretty much let anybody in. So maybe that's another reason. But I feel like it's the really what the root cause of that would be, like the over uh just the immaturity, right? The way people are in children are kept at such a low level, and it's kind of like when they get to college they have no idea what's going on because they probably might not even, some people never even stayed a night away or went away on their own, and then they go away to college with no rules, and then gets a little crazy. But that's the one difference I see. I think I wonder if raising the drinking age is what did that, because
It
it
could
made it so
be.
you're not supposed to do it, and then more people wanted to do
Yeah, when you say thou shalt
it.
not,
Anyway,
what do
it's just
people
over
want to do? Is there still a delay?
it. Yeah. No, I think maybe a little one.
Okay.
Joe said it's 18 years old for beer, 21 for liquor, and then he said, "Oh, 16 for beer."
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. When I was in Italy, everybody could drink, and there
Hmm.
were some drunks and stuff, but it didn't seem like they had an issue with alcoholism in Italy like they do. Yeah.
Exactly.
Everybody in the bar looked happy.
So, okay, so having said that, when they start putting strict rules on people having arms, what does that make people want to do? Get more.
Yes, and this is something,
We talked about this in an episode before.
and I've talked about this a lot just with other people in my life where I'm like, yeah, it's great to want to support the NRA and the Second Amendment, but like, what the hell is really going on here? You know, do we need all these weapons? And again, I'm not saying that we should make any laws to stop people, right? I'm just saying we're doing a little thought experiment. Like, is it a good idea to flood this area, this country with so many weapons? With the way that the political situation is the way it is, where people are so divided. I don't think people are going to go to war. Like, I don't think there's going to be a civil war here without some major motivational things. Like, they'd have to get rid of the internet and maybe electricity and stuff like that, and then maybe people will do it. But people can't even skip lunch. Never mind going to war. So, but it's just another industry, I think, where people don't realize the NRA. I think their job is to sell guns. You know, So it's one of those things where what side are you going to be? Are you going to be the red team or blue team? Well, it's like, well, I'm more of a purple guy where there's like some points on this side that's all right and some that are on that side. Um, and maybe we should look at this or whatever. But instead of just arguing for one side or another, I think a more nuanced approach is always the best way. And again, not like I'm against anyone. Listen, own all the guns you want. Get a tank if you want. Have fun. But what I'm saying is like I don't think the NRA is looking out for our best interests. I'm sure people that watch the show get what I'm talking about, though.
Yeah. Do you want to move on to Stan Rosenthal, the second part? I mean, it's like, it's not quite second. It's like most of the verse.
I like this warrior king. The warrior king leans to his right, from whence there comes his general's advice. But the peaceful king looks to his left, where sits his counselor of peace. When he looks to his left, it is a time of peace, and when to the right, a time for sorrow. Weapons of war are instruments of fear, and are not favored by the wise, who use them only when there is no choice. For peace and stillness are dear to their hearts, and victory causes them no rejoicing. To rejoice in victory is to delight in killing. To delight in killing is to have no self being. I like honestly, out of all the breakdowns, I think this one covers weapons the best because it does say wise men are not so it says weapons are instruments of fear and are not favored by the wise. So it doesn't mean that they're not used by the wise or that a wise person isn't hip and doesn't know how to defend themselves. It's just saying it's not favored by them, right? So you can even bring this back to like Wild West, right? Everyone has a gun, even though it might not have existed the way we were told, but everyone's got a gun in the wild western town, and only the outlaws are the ones that are using it for anything bad. Everyone else is fine. They just have it in case they need it. If a coyote comes along, or if like another bad guy is trying to rob them, but everyone else was armed and was fine, and they were all wise men, right? They were just ready. They weren't abusing them like you see with people who are criminals.
Absolutely.
So I think that's
Yeah,
really what it's talking about. It's the criminal element, and
that makes sense.
the way he highlights it. I think is a little better for our modern audience.
Yeah, it
All right.
is.
The conduct of war is that of a funeral. When people are killed, it is a time of mourning. This is why even victorious battles should be observed without rejoicing.
Mm. He even says it a little
Yeah,
bit more like succinctly and more clearly.
yeah, and I like the way he says it too, because he's saying the war shouldn't be observed and rejoiced. So he's not really saying the people in the war, because if you fought a tough war of defense and you just saved everybody, you might have a little celebration, right? But it's not. I think he's more talking about people watching on the sidelines that are like, yeah, they won the war, man. Go ahead, like fans, right? Like
Observed. Yeah.
you don't need fans of war, So, but very nuanced. I think this is like a very thin line. That's why I love breaking this stuff down, because it really isn't black or white.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yes and no.
No and yes, it's working. All right, I'm gonna bring it back up.
All right. Do you want to highlight it?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
The place of honor is on the right in wartime. So thinketh the man of distinction. This is the one where I finally understood what he meant by standing on the left versus standing on the right. So here goes. Sharp weapons are ill omened, unworthy of such a man. He uses them only in necessity. He says sharp weapons. Look at that. So they back in the day they were talking about
Uh,
probably knives and swords, and spears and stuff.
yep.
He valued peace. He values peace and ease. Yes. Desires not violence of victory. To desire victory is to desire the death of men, and to desire that is to fail to propitiate, which means to appease the people. At feasts, the left hand is the high seat, at funerals, the right. The second in command of the army leads the left wing, and the commander in chief the right wing. It is as if the battle were a rite of mourning. He who hath slain most men should weep for them most bitterly. Wow, that reminds me of what we talk about when we say, like, if someone's coming at you and they're trying to hurt you and kill you, but have something to defend yourself with, you shouldn't do it, you know, gloatingly, but you should be like, I'm sorry, dude. This hurts me more than it hurts you.
Yeah. It's going to
So
hurt you a
then,
lot, but trust me, it's going to hurt me more later.
yeah, yeah. So then the place of the victor is assigned to him with philosophical propriety.
Oops, I stopped my video. Let me start that again. Yeah, I think we're really starting to get more of by breaking those down, we got a better idea. So it's not like the Tao is against weapons, and think about it back then, I think it was just different. I mean, obviously it was different than it is today, but it was just much different, I think. Whereas like there were no guns, so it's a much different um whole
Yeah,
like
it wasn't
landscape.
from a distance. You couldn't
Yeah.
hurt somebody from maybe with an arrow, bow and
Yeah,
arrow.
yeah, arrows and stuff. But that's still work, right? You got to learn how to
Yeah.
do it and stuff with a gun. You just pick it up and point and shoot. I mean, you do have to practice to be a marksman and stuff, but you're right. That really changed war, because before you'd have to be face to face and kill people with swords and axes and stuff, and like you said, bows. But now you can do it from so far away. People do it with just a push of a button. I mean, there's people who fly drones, and they're in this country in a little room, and they're flying a drone that could be, near Israel somewhere. in another country, dropping bombs, and
Mm,
there's a lot of detachment there. It's crazy.
yeah. So PK asks, what do you guys make of this left right stuff? What is left right about in the Tao? He says Taoism, but I'm just going to say the Tao. Sorry if you guys talked about it already. I don't think we have. But I was going to say that I don't really necessarily know the answer to that, but when I was reading through this and seeing the discussion of the left and the right, um, the way Aleister Crowley said that the left hand is the high seat at funerals, the right, and the second in command of the army leads the left wing, the commander in chief, the right wing. So I just got the feeling that like the left hand corresponded to like peace, like being in a time of peace, and the right hand corresponded to being in a time of war. That's kind of what I gathered from it.
It also reminds you of like, I'll sit at the right hand of my father, that kind of stuff, from the Bible that you would see.
Oh, okay. So maybe that means that you'll be victorious, right? And in spiritually speaking, you're victorious in war, but in this what we call this life, right? Because
Spiritual
when you
battle.
yes, it's spiritual battle. So when you're sitting at the right hand, like Jesus sits at the right hand of his father, means that he was victorious in this spiritual battle. That's all. I mean, that's what I am just gathering from that.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. It might have something, maybe it has something to do with right and left brain, or the balance that we see, the dark and the light. You'd have to look into it further, I guess. See
Yeah.
if there's anything else. And I like how they say right wing, left wing. I mean, this was like in the 1920s that they probably weren't talking about right and left wing back then. You know, he's talking
Yeah,
about armies. So it's funny because our words will say like, "Oh, he's left wing," or "Oh, he's right wing," but in this context, in the 20s, they're talking about war, right? It's the left wing of the army or the right wing of the army.
yeah.
It's literally a war.
And so yeah, it's interesting what that mean. What does that mean? He leads the left wing, the second in command. So maybe the the first in command is like the first ones to battle, right? And maybe the second in command is kind of like, well, we'll back you up if you need anything. So they're still kind of in a maybe a time of peace until anything happens with the right wing. Maybe. I don't know. Does that make sense?
I could see that. Yeah, no, definitely. Um, I was also looking at it in like if you're looking at flanks of an army that are coming at you, like, I'll command the right side, you command the left, and we'll meet up in the middle after we get done with the battle. Uh, I think there was something else I was going to say too, but that's what I was going to say about the right wing and the left wing. What people don't even realize is they're talking about one army here, and if you're taking this right wing, left wing usage of words and you apply it to like the Democrats and the Republicans, you're taking words that were formerly meant to mean like an army's attacking itself, right? Because the right wing's going after the left wing. So right off the basis, you're already screwed. It's so crazy. It's not like you're going to conquer somebody else. You're trying to conquer the other side of your army by voting for one guy or another. That's how they frame it these days. But 100 years ago, if you said right wing and left wing, people would think you're talking about an army that's advancing in the different flanks of it.
Hmm. Interesting point.
So every time we vote, we're basically going to war with ourselves. That's when it's all right. That's why I don't vote. I don't participate in the war. I'm not right wing or left wing. I'm little wing, like Jimi Hendrix.
I opt out.
Yeah.
So, All right. Well, that's verse 31.
All right. And it's 3:30. We're right on time. 3:33 almost here. Oh, 3:34. I just missed it. Verse 32. Here we go.
Next
Stephen
time we
Mitchell.
do the Tao, it'll be verse 33.
Oh, yeah. Uh-oh. Illuminati confirmed. Stephen Mitchell from 1988. The Tao can't be perceived. Smaller than an electron, it contains uncountable galaxies. If powerful men and women could remain centered in the Tao, all things would be in harmony. The world would become a paradise. Excuse me. All people would be at peace, and the law would be written in their hearts. When you have names and forms, know that they are provisional. When you have institutions, know where their functions should end. Knowing when to stop, you can avoid any danger. All things end in the Tao as rivers flow into the sea.
Very nice. Dwight Goddard calls this verse the virtue or day of holiness. Tao in its eternal aspect is unnameable. And that's exactly what the first verse says. Its simplicity appears insignificant, but the whole world cannot control it. If princes and kings employ it, every one of themselves will pay willing homage. Heaven and earth by it are harmoniously combined and drop sweet dew. People will have no need of rulers, because of themselves they will be righteous. As soon as Tao expresses itself in orderly creation, then it becomes comprehensible. When one recognizes the presence of Tao, he understands where to stop. Knowing where to stop, he is free from danger. To illustrate the nature of Tao's place in the universe, Tao is like the brooks and streams in their relation to the great rivers and the ocean. Lovely.
That's pretty similar. All right, so I have a night. Well, these are short. Do you think you could share your screen? I really need to run to the bathroom really quick for some reason. I think
Men's
I
room?
drank too much coffee. But if you want to share your screen, I'll read it and then I'll hit the men's room, and then you can, while you're reading it, and then you could stop the share and just talk until I get back, but it shouldn't be long. So
Okay. Sounds good. Let me
yeah, I think
share.
too much coffee today or something. I don't know what's going on. I could just
Sounds.
pee. I could pee out this window here. I don't know if the
Oh
neighbors
my
are
God.
kidding everybody. I could though.
All right,
That's
Stan
hilarious.
Rosenthal. Go ahead, Brandon.
Nice. If the Tao were observed, the Tao is eternal but does not have fame. Like the uncarved block, its worth seems small, though its value to man is beyond all measure. Were it definable, it could then be used to obviate
Obviate.
obviate conflict and the need to teach the way of the Tao. All men would abide in the peace of the Tao. Sweet dew would descend to nurse the earth. When the Tao is divided, there is a need for names. For, like the block which is carved, its parts then are seen. By stopping in time from torment and conflict, strife is defeated and danger averted. The people then seek the wisdom of the Tao, just as rivers flow to the great sea. All right, and I'll be right back.
All right. I will read Aleister Crowley's version of verse 32. He entitles this The Wisdom of Day. And when I copy pasted this, it actually was a typo. It said the wisdom of the THE. And I had to go reference another book, a PDF of this translation. And I realized, oh, that was a misspell. So I fixed it. All right. He says, the all Tao hath no name. It is that minute point. Yet the whole world dare not contend against him who hath it. Did a lord or king gain it and guard it? All men would obey him of their own accord. Heaven and earth combining under its spell, shed forth dew, extending throughout all things of its own accord. without man's interference. Tao, in its phase of action, hath a name. Then men can comprehend it. When they do this, there is no more risk of wrong or ill success. As the great rivers and the oceans are to the valley streams, so is the Tao to the whole universe. And I see Brandon's shadow coming right back.
Perfect.
And
All right.
I will stop the share. Bless you. Or whatever you say when someone coughs.
Thank you. That's funny. It's the first time we've ever had to take a break while we're live. It's for one of us to hit the
And
head.
it's funny because at the very beginning of this, before we went live, I told Brandon, I got to run to the restroom so I don't have to do it later. And Brandon should have probably done the same, and he didn't. I'm just kidding.
No, I did.
You must have drank too much water.
Yeah.
Or something else.
Sometimes the coffee I drink gets to me, but I don't know. It's really weird. Usually I can hold it for a long time, but sometimes I'm like, I just gotta go.
Oh, yes, the German Gesundheit. I forgot about that. I love that.
Gesundheit.
Yeah, like Auf Wiedersehen.
Awesome. Well, we could start our little breakdown. I was thinking here, I think what the difference is, because I noticed yours, I think I just zoomed in on mine a couple. That's why it's a little bigger.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Do you still want me to be the one to... You want me to do it?
Oh, no, I could do it now. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. So the first part of the Tao here, verse 32 by Stephen Mitchell. The Tao can't be perceived. Smaller than an electron, it contains uncountable galaxies.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that because he's trying to bring it into like a more modern reference.
Yeah.
In a way of
That's
talking.
what I was thinking, yeah.
And it reminds me of a hologram, right? All of are contained in every minute. It's like DNA, kind of, that whole concept.
Fractals.
Yeah, fractals. If powerful men and women could remain centered in the Tao, all things would be in harmony.
Indeed.
And now a lot of people will look at this and they'd go, all right, now we got to tell all the powerful people, we got to get people in power who are going to act this way. But if you look at this reverse and apophatically, and I'm going to bring it back up and highlight it, if powerful men and women could remain centered in the Tao, right? So the key word here is could. So they can't. I think it's like a backwards thing. I feel like if people, if everybody was living in accordance with the Tao, then wouldn't the leaders be living in accordance with the Tao? I think it's just because it's a reflection, the leadership that we end up with, the quote unquote leadership that we end up with, I think is a direct result of our own behavior wherever we are. So I feel like that's why things are the way they are. So we can't elect a powerful person in there that's going to be peace and harmony and fix everything, because people wouldn't go for it. Not everybody, they might say they would, but they're not going to live that way. You have to actually live that way. You have to treat your neighbor as you want to be treated, and then we wouldn't even need
golden rule. If everyone lived, the powerful people lived out by the golden rule, then we'd all live by the golden rule.
Yeah, exactly. Or if all of us live by the golden rule, then the powerful people would have to live by the golden rule. And that's kind of how I'm looking at it, like in reverse. So I like that part. And again, it's just like the last verse we read last week about the world being perfect. Some people would say through that lens, they'd be like, well, I want the world to be perfect. So in that case, we need men and women in charge that are going to remain centered in the Tao. But I don't think that's how it comes apart. You're putting the cart in front of the horse when you're doing that. You got to get the people. Well, not that you have to get anyone to do anything, but people have to live in accordance with this to have leaders, to deserve leaders that are like that, right?
Yeah.
But if you just live that way yourself, right, and then hopefully everybody
because could it be you are a powerful man or woman?
Yeah. There you go.
You be the powerful man or woman who remains centered in the Tao.
And all things will be in harmony around you.
Exactly.
Could it be?
exactly.
The world would become a paradise.
For you
And
and those
the funny
around.
thing too is like maybe the world really would become some kind of paradise if everybody learned their lessons. But I think we're here to learn these lessons, and but if for whatever reason everybody just one day figured it all out, then I think the world would be a paradise. It's like easy to say that. Not that I think it's ever possible. Maybe it is. I don't want
Well,
to maybe with different ages stuff
they
that
say,
come.
yeah, they say Kali Yugas, and they say, they end and they bring a golden age. So who knows? I haven't experienced that yet, but it sounds like the sages of old spoke of these ages. So could it be? It's coming soon.
Yeah, yeah, 100% in that way. It could be something. You never know. You never do
um,
know. One of these little
yeah,
resets that people talk about, maybe it is more like that archaic guy says, where it's just for the wicked people. They're the ones who get wiped out, and it's like a reset, and the people who are left are the ones who get it or whatever. So in that case,
I
I could see something like that happening, right?
I was just actually thinking about that before I was getting ready, or before when I was getting ready, and I was thinking about how, like, yeah, the Bible even talks about that in terms of like the rapture. It's not so much that you'll be raptured into like heaven, into this otherworldly place that's not here. It's just it's just more like you'll not see you won't experience all that, goes on, all the craziness that goes on, because you'll be living in some like harmonious bliss of your own making because you're not allowing those things to get to you. Could it be?
Yep. Yeah, it's like the
Um,
lessons that I have to learn are deep, and I'm like going deep within myself. So I'll be trying to learn those lessons while other people are like burning because they can't learn the lessons or they're not playing the game. And again, these aren't judgments, right? This is just kind of how we think maybe the realm works. Who knows? Could it be? But I think it's kind of highlighted here in the Tao where they say that because they're letting all the people, it become a paradise. And then I'll bring it back up. Were you going to say something?
yeah, I was just going to point out that last line right there that says the law would be written in their hearts. Well, just so you know, guys, that's written in the Bible too. Romans 2:15. I've brought it up many times that it says that the law is written in our hearts, in every single one of us. So we do know how to tell right from wrong. It's all there.
Yep. And I think the important distinction here is it says all people would be at peace and the law would be written in their hearts. So, yeah, the law is written in everyone's heart. But if you're not at peace, you might not be able to hear your heart. You might be listening to your ego or whatever, however you want to describe it, but you're not thinking and acting from your heart space and from compassion. You're acting out of how can I
Vengeance
make out
and
on this and how can I do better? And you're looking at it from a
Mhm.
selfish point of view, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's kind of, yeah, people are like, um, most people in our society. I mean, I'm probably fall, uh, I'm probably even guilty of this where I'll look at situations where how I can benefit out of the whole situation as opposed to everybody in the situation. Even if I'm just like at the store or whatever, it's like I want to get to the quickest line or I want to do this right. But if we could all learn to put everybody's welfare or well-being at the center of our heart, it'd be more in that heart space, and we would be listening to law written in our heart, and we would be at peace. But I think that is a part of it because if you're not at peace in your mind, then you can't be at peace in your heart. Something like that.
Yeah, something like
You
that
want to
for
read
sure.
the Dwight Goddard?
Yes.
Yeah, something like. Okay, go ahead.
Dwight Goddard, the virtue, or what is known as day of holiness. Tao, in its eternal aspect, is unnameable. Its simplicity appears insignificant. but the whole world cannot control it. If princes and kings employ it, every one of themselves will pay willing homage. Heaven and earth by it are harmoniously combined and drop sweet dew. People will have no need of rulers. Because of themselves, they will be righteous. Now, that last line, I think, is like that other line in Stephen Mitchell that says, all things would be in harmony, the world would become paradise, all people would be at peace, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's saying the law would be written in their hearts. And then this one says, themselves, they will be righteous. So when the law is written in your heart, and I guess if you follow your heart, right, your true heart, your compassion, your love, and you lead with love and compassion, then you are righteous.
Yep. 100%.
Let's see.
People
What
will
else?
have no need of rulers. I love that. That's exactly what we were just talking about, right? We wouldn't even need rulers if we all lived this way. And
Well,
a
let's
lot of
just say
people
that.
get that. I was just going to say, a lot of people get that. And then they go point the fingers at everybody else. And they're like, you got to live that way. And it's like, yeah, they do. But first, you, my dear person who's pointing the finger, have to live that way. And part of living that way isn't judging people and telling them what they have to do.
I was going to say, could it be people will have no need of rulers? Could it be that's talking to those of us who would like to embody the Tao and live the Tao? Because then we are led by the Holy Spirit. We are led by the divine, or led by our heart's divine love, compassion, rather than the lords that are allegedly over us, right? We don't need the rulers. We're the ones who don't need them right now. But this is looks like it's talking about it in a way like,
The
if everyone were this way, then there would be no need of rulers. But I'm looking at it even just in the micro, like the people who, like you and me or whatever, like, could it be we don't need them? That's why we opt out of all that nonsense.
exactly. And I feel like that's a valid way to interpret the Tao. People, I don't think, realize that not only is the Tao saying to you what it's saying, but it's also saying to you what it's not saying, right? Does that make sense? So you could apophatically look at it, or you can even do the as above, so below thing and use that interpretation like you just did, because it's making a statement of fact. So then you could say, well, if this, then therefore that, and you could, that's why I think a lot of the interpretations are different, and there is a lot more to get out of it. And it's not as confusing as it might seem right away. If you look at it the right way, and if you break it down 4 verses at a time on a podcast, it makes a lot more sense.
Yes.
Shout out to MS, by the way. She gave Sharon a really nice, or he or she gave,
I think
do
it's
you
a
know
she.
what? Oh, it's a she. Yeah. Okay. So she gave Sharon a really nice compliment. It says, Sharon, you are a genius. That is the best way to think of the rapture that I've ever heard. Yeah, you could look at it that way, or you can even look at it as a rapture might happen. But I think the people are going to get raptured out that don't fit or that aren't learning their lessons. Um, so it's like a reverse rapture. All the other people stay here and the rest of the people. But who knows? I don't, I like these theories, and we've talked about this probably even last week, but anything that has to do with the end of the world or the end of the way it is right now, I always have some kind of, like, I take it with a grain of salt, and I don't worry about it, and I don't set my whole life up against it, because I've been hearing it for years, and who knows, maybe it could happen. And if it does, I'm just going to keep doing my thing. Right. But I'm not going to freaking freak out about it and tell everybody the world's going to end.
Right. Which reminds me of the show you recommended called Good Omens, because I like it. It's funny as heck, and I'm having a good time watching it.
I know you like the British humor too, so I figured you'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, It's
There's
kind
one
of
part,
it's like a dry and silly type of humor.
and there's one part where so there's two guys in the show. Everybody, there's Crowley, who's the demon, and then as how do you say his name? There's
Oh
one
my
guy that's
gosh, MS is a dude. I'm so sorry. Are you serious? I did not know that. Oh gosh, darn it. M Michael? All
welcome.
right.
We
Thank you,
apologize.
Michael. When you have initials, I don't know. So thank you. And I'm sorry. And if you told us this before and I forgot, I'm sorry about that too.
Yeah, we're having a lot of technical issues today, so we're it doesn't look like it, but we were stressed. This is how we get stressed
Yeah.
out. I'm glad we pulled through, though. I was about to suggest we just stop and record it, but it started to work again, and we
No,
made it through.
yeah.
So
I was like, okay, I'm imagining that
yeah,
everything's just going to work out. The lines are magically going to get cleared. So that's what I was trying to tell you to like take a deep breath and like imagine everything was just going to be okay. But you like totally railroaded me, and I was like, okay, like we're talking over each other. This isn't going to work. So
so just so you know, I did hear you say that, and I might not have acknowledged it, but
it's okay.
I did start to do that though. So maybe that's why it got back, because I'm just like, whatever. If it works out, it does. Our fans are so amazing that they'll just sit here and laugh at us if we're stuttering or whatever. Like, I don't think they'd be upset. You know, no one's gonna be like, your show sucks. You gotta fix it or whatever. You know, we don't get that stuff here on
And
our
even if
channel.
they
Even
do,
if we
that's their
did,
opinion. That's kind of like your opinion, man.
that's kind of
Right?
like your opinion, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one.
But the Crowley
Oh,
thing. I was just gonna say really quick. So as Pharrell, whatever the angel, he was like, "Can I spot you,
as if Pharrell,
Pharrell, as if Pharrell
whatever
or
his name
whatever?"
is.
As Pharrell, he's like, "Can I tempt you with a spot of lunch?"
Isn't that
He's like, "Can I tempt
hilarious?
you?" Yeah, I know.
I know. He's like, wait, you should be the one tempting.
The only thing I will say is that I did finish season two. It was really good, but it falls prey to the wokeness that we are experiencing. But I don't judge any of that stuff, man. I just let it happen because it's a pretty cool show. But it's funny to me though, because I have been watching a lot more TV and stuff, how much stuff is put in there and how different it is. But what I think to myself is though, like, were people saying this back in the 80s too when they started showing a lot of violence on TV? Was it the same thing? It's just like a slow move of the Overton window. And
Overton window.
because I wasn't watching TV for about 4 or 5 years really
I
regularly,
wasn't either.
to come back to it, I'm just like, whoa. But I'm able again because of this stuff with the Dow that we talk about. It's like, all right, man, this guy wants to be, gay. We're watching this other show where there's a guy, I forget the name of it, but it's like there's like a gay character or whatever. And I just think of myself like they got to do it till it's done. I mean, this shit's funny. I try to watch comedy and lighten the mood and laugh. And when they bring stuff in like that, I know what it is. It's like that's what's working. And I think Owen Benjamin talked about this in an episode about he's like, guys, it's not like they're sitting there saying we got to do all this stuff. We got to make these TV shows. He's like, all they do is say, we're looking for shows where this is happening. We need this and this in there. And then people just make the shows and then they pick them. You know what I mean? So,
And they just
uh,
modify little bits. They're like, no, actually, in this part, you need to add this. And then they
yeah,
just
we
do it.
want more Chinese people in here or whatever. Like I try to watch the Wheel of Time TV show, and anyone that read Wheel of Time, there's a warder. His name is Lan. He's like a pretty major character, and they made him. He's like this warrior guy, and they made him Asian on the TV show. And I'm like, he's supposed to be this giant man. He's like, he's this little Asian guy, which is great. I'm sure Asian people could kick ass, but it's like,
Hey, wasn't there a big tall basketball player?
yeah,
What was
Yao
his
Ming.
name?
Well,
Yao
that's the
Ming.
thing.
I was trying to remember his name.
If he
I
was
was
a
gonna say Ming Yao, but I said it backwards.
if he was like a giant Yao Ming, warrior looking guy, all right, it'd be cool with it. You know what I mean? But it's like, I don't know, whatever. Not that I really even care, but I think it sometimes takes you out of the story or whatever. But, we're in the time we're in now, so we got to deal with what we got, right? That's what I think this whole conversation really is about that we're having, really, about the
Yeah.
Dow, this continuing thing. It's about how to fit in without being. It's how to be in the world and not of it, right? All
Yes,
right, that was
absolutely.
for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. You want to do Stan Rosenthal? You want to share it or you want me to share it?
I got it.
Okay.
A gauntlet. Yeah, it was as you were saying it, I was pulling it up. We're in such great sync. All right, so Stan Rosenthal from 1984. If the Tao were observed, the Tao is eternal, but does not have fame. Like the uncarved block, its worth seems small, though its value to man is beyond all measure. All measure. Were it definable, it could be then used to obviate conflict and the need to teach the way of the Tao. So I like that part because if it's like if we could define this value to people and what the Tao is, there would be no need to even talk about it. You know, everybody would just kind of get it. But there's really no way. It's like the Matrix, right? You can't, unfortunately, we can't be told what the Matrix is. You must experience it for yourself,
For
right? It's like
yourself.
the same. And do that Morpheus, that so many lines that were in that movie, and then they fall prey to the to what's
I
going
never
on.
watched the second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever, however many they went. I just
No,
watched the first one.
oh, I just meant the creators or whatever, the supposed creators,
Oh, yes, yes.
now or whatever. Yeah,
Well, wasn't okay, so
yeah, they probably stole it from somebody, I'm sure.
yeah, right. I mean, I don't know if it's true or not, but allegedly this lady um was interviewed and asked about the story because she wrote um the Terminator stuff and the Matrix stuff, and they're a continuous story. But I guess it was taken from her without her. I don't know. I don't know how that's true or what, but it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is super interesting when you think about it.
But anyway,
I actually have an idea. I think oh no, we already talked about this on the show. That's right. I think we already were taken over by the machines, and they're like, you know how people say Joe Biden's a robot and all that stuff. Like, look at this guy's a robot.
mm-hmm.
Maybe they are robots and the machines did take over, and this is we didn't get a dystopian kind of future. We just got this because this is what keeps us subdued and under their control. Just a bunch of retards up there, you know. That'd be so funny. You know, many people would be pissed. They're like waiting for Armageddon. I thought the machines already took over, man. They're already there's no one to fight. In fact, you guys like it. All
Did
right.
you finish reading Stephen Mitchell,
Getting
or were
back
you
to
just
this. So yeah, it's pretty cool because it's if the Tao were observed, it's kind of like this is how it would be if, you know. Um, and I also like how it's not, you know, the Tao is eternal but does not have fame. So not a lot of people know about it. Right.
I am not seeing your screen. Maybe you want to stop sharing because I don't know if it's taking up your bandwidth again. And I don't hear you anymore. So maybe I'll interrupt. I'll interrupt your screen sharing. Maybe it'll help. Yeah, I don't know where Brandon went. Can you guys still see or hear me? I think you guys can. So I don't know where he left off, but he's going to have to come back. All right, I'll just leave it as me for now, and I will just say hello to the chat. Tony Coriolis is still not watching TV. I said, good for you. Joker's Redemption says, unless you're Larry David, then you put the woke shit in there. Oops. But not in a way promoting it, but making fun of it. Yes, yes. Yeah, totally. Not that I watch a lot of Larry David stuff, but like I get the concept of like putting stuff in there, but like laughing at it instead of promoting it. Yeah, Brandon went ghost. Yeah. Yeah, please do a little rain dance for Brandon to get back in here. Um, yeah, sorry, I'm just reading through the comments. So yeah, thanks, Spoons, MS. Michael, I think that's how you pronounce your name. If it's not, please do tell. Thank you for the suggestions of doing a little dance for Brandon to come back, because I see him back, but now just waiting for his screen to come back. But thank you all for being here and being patient with us. Brandon came on his phone, I'm guessing now.
I'm back on my phone.
Okay.
How's it going, everybody?
It's a little
I don't know
choppy, but
what's
it's
going on
okay.
right now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a little choppy, but it's okay. I can
Oh, okay.
share and everything. So you want me to share where we
Yeah,
were?
sure.
Okay,
I'll get
perfect.
this mic set up to my phone too. Let's see if it sounds better.
Yeah, it looks good. I mean, it sounds good so far.
All right, there we go. Can you still hear me?
Oh, yeah, perfect.
Better now?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So,
I think if I just keep the my YouTube thing up, I should be good.
yeah,
Zoom.
just keep things going on your
Okay.
end, and I'll share the screen and you can finish reading.
Sweet. All right. So, um, where was I? Oh, I was okay. Though.
I think all men would abide in the peace. I think this is, did you read this part? I
Okay.
can't
Yeah.
remember.
No, I don't think so. All men would abide in the peace of the Tao. Sweet dew would descend to nourish the earth. Sounds amazing. It's like that golden age
And
they keep talking about, right?
right. And that sweet dew is, I saw it mentioned by three, right? So Aleister calls it dew. Stan Rosenthal says sweet dew. And then if we go to Dwight Goddard, he says sweet dew as well. So I noticed that. So it must have been a word in Chinese that meant dew or
Makes
even
sense.
sweet dew. But yeah, descending to nourish the earth. That just, I don't know, but it just made me think of when, the story of Noah's Ark was that before there was rain, there was a dew that would, nourish the earth. It would come up from the ground, and the water would feed the plants and everything and nature. So there was no such thing as rain. So I wonder if you could say that this implies a return to that sort of paradise where there's no need of rain, where there's no need of storms and storm clouds, but there's just dew. It's back to the peaceful Garden of Eden sort of type of place. Could it be?
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. Well, I'm
I
just going
mean,
to
if you even
quickly
like
go ahead.
bring it back to us for like 1 second, because I just want to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So if you think about the law of one and about energy, uh, how we're all energy, and in this density. So maybe the golden age that they talk about, or the waters, everything was water before, and then the land was created. Maybe that was a different density, and now that we're in this density, like these are the rules of this density, right? I mean, yeah, sure, maybe it's. I don't want to say that it's impossible that we can't have a golden age here in this realm or on Earth, but it seems to me that just because of the circumstances that we're in and that we find ourselves in a lot, it seems that this is what this whole realm is for. So maybe people have glimpses of how it was before or how it can be after, and that's maybe why they like call it the golden age and all that stuff. Maybe it's you know, it's not something
Oh,
we should sit here. Oops, I'm using my
oh,
my
your gimbal.
yeah, my gimbal, so I'm still getting used to
Nice.
it. Yeah, so but either way, I'm just saying that because I know there's people who are kind of like waiting for it to be the golden age. They're like, I can't wait. Well, maybe
Yeah.
that's not going to happen until we get to the next density or whatever. But
Yeah. I mean, we don't know. We're just all speculating. That's all we can do.
That's right.
You cannot
Oops.
explain the Matrix, right? You must experience it for yourself.
That's right. There we go.
PK says, yes, I agree with you. They were talking of primordial times. It was probably boring.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, because even they didn't have choices, right? So the good and the garden, right? And they have the trees of knowledge of good and evil. And if you think about like an animal, they don't know good or evil. They're just living in accordance to their nature,
Right.
right? They can't really,
Absolutely.
they're not out there killing for the hell of it. Whereas humans could pick their nature, I guess you could say at some point. I mean, we all have a certain man or woman nature. I won't say human, right? But I feel like with it's more black and white. Maybe that's why they say that dogs see in black and white. You know, they're always like, oh,
Mm.
dogs see in black and white. They can't see color. I mean, maybe it's also like a reference to that. Everything's black and white to them. I don't know.
It could be. Yeah. Yeah. Well, are you ready for me to read Aleister Crowley's?
Let's do it.
All right. So he calls this the wisdom of day. The all Tao hath no name. It is that minute point, yet the whole world dare not contend against him who has it. Who has what? It is that minute point, yet the whole world dare not contend against him who has it.
The
Name?
Tao.
The Tao? All right, we'll read. Did a lord or king gain it and guard it, all men would obey him of their own accord. So, like, this is saying those people we were talking about. What did it say? The other one said, if powerful men and women, I think something like that, right? If
Yeah, that makes
powerful
sense.
men and women gain it and guard it, all men would obey him. Yes, so that flies. That goes. Heaven and earth combining under its spell shed forth dew, extending throughout all things of its own accord without man's interference. So I guess when you're living in accordance with the Tao, you allow heaven and earth to shed forth dew to do its thing without your meddling. You just be, you just allow heaven and earth to be, and you just abide with it and let the Tao live through you, so to speak.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's really what they've been talking about in this Tao thing for this whole we've been talking about this whole time, really, right? Living in accordance with nature without trying to interfere into it. And I think the way without men's interference is kind of like referring to the ego.
Mm.
That makes sense in the way that we think it should be, in the way that we want it to be, instead of the way that it is.
Yes, indeed.
And if we
Shall we?
realize that it doesn't need our interference, that it's just fine without it, then we'll be okay. Yeah, go ahead. You wanna?
We'll go back to Stan Rosenthal and we'll do the second half.
Yeah.
Brandon, do you want to read it?
Yes, I'm just gonna bring it up on my computer because it's bigger. All right,
Oh, yes.
in Rosenthal 1984, when the Tao is divided, there is a need for names.
Wait,
For
Stephen
Stephen
Mitchell.
Mitchell. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's right. Yeah,
It's okay.
I thought you said all right. When you have names and forms, know that they are provisional. When you have institutions, know where their functions should end. Knowing when to stop, you can avoid any danger. All things end in the Tao as rivers flow into the sea. I think this is really big. This reminds me of like government stuff, right? Like they create something like the Department of Homeland Security or whatever. Well, what are we gonna do if there's no more terrorism anymore? No one talks about that. Or like, when is this gonna end? Or like, what happened after 9/11 with the at the airports, where you have like the creation of the TSA, and like you have to take your shoes off and all this stuff. Now we're just there, right? The government never makes a body and then ends it. And they used to. That's the thing that people don't realize. Like, after big wars and stuff, we didn't even have an army. Like, I think in between like World War One and World War Two, we didn't even have like a really big army.
Hmm.
Same kind of thing where you have to know where they're going to end, and that reminds me a lot of gambling as well, right? A lot of people will go gamble, and
Know when to
I've always
stop.
heard, people will tell you should set a limit on how much you want to lose, but you should also set a limit on how much you want to win. Like, if you're up like
Exactly.
$10,000, like, get the fuck out of there. What are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what do you hope
Exactly.
to expect? And that's the same kind of thing in life. A lot of times we'll set these goals, but we don't think of the other side of it, right?
Mm-hmm. I like the when you have names and forms, know that they are provisional. Uh, provisional, I didn't look it up, but it's like they are like just for a time, right? Would that be like
Yeah,
for
like a temporary kind of thing, because yeah, I'm kind of working on this about a joke about feet. Like, why do we call them feet? It's not really a foot. That's not, this isn't a hand. It's just something that I have that we've labeled hands. Like, that's not the sun out there. That's just what we call it. You know what I mean? That's not a
right,
tree. That's
right,
just our name for it. It's the same kind of thing. And I feel like societies get wrapped up in words, in the meanings of words and stuff like that, as
yes,
opposed to like what it really is. And you don't really
right,
experience the present moment. You're just like, oh yeah, that's a tree, that's a forest. Like, you can go hiking, and the whole time you're hiking, if you're not in the present moment, you could just be thinking about work and all this other stuff that's bothering you. And you're like, oh, those are just some trees. But what are they really? Are they magical conduits of energy that you could, like, the druids believe that you could just let the trees have all your
give
problems,
them,
and they just take it
right.
all. Like,
It's funny, the concept of this, like naming something, because I had a dream some weeks ago and I didn't write it down, so I don't remember it. But in the dream, I had this epiphany of like, you know, God told God told Adam to name the thing, like name it. I was just like, all we have to do is name it. That's all that's as simple as that, is naming it. And that was my something like that with my epiphany in the dream. And then like now I can't remember what it was all about. But in the dream, it was like it was massive. I was like, I get it. But now I don't remember what it was. But yeah, it's funny because it reminded me, when you were talking about it, reminded me of that dream I had, which I've been trying to remember, but I can't. But they are provisional, like this says. It's just for a time. And maybe that was supposed to be the epiphany, you know?
yeah, that
Um,
could totally make sense if you get wrapped up in what we name things, right?
mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I do like that part about the when you have names and forms, know that they're provisional.
All right. Let me read the other part. All right. So Dwight Goddard, verse 32, the second half is, as soon as Tao expresses itself in orderly creation, then it becomes comprehensible. When one recognizes the presence of Tao, he understands where to stop. Knowing where to stop, he is free from danger. To illustrate the nature of Tao's place in the universe, Tao is like the brooks and streams in their relation to the great rivers and the ocean. So it's funny because Stephen Mitchell's talking about, naming something. and it's being kind of a temporary thing, right? And then Dwight Goddard is saying that he's talking about the Tao expressing itself in orderly creation and then becoming comprehensible. So it's like, is it comprehensible because it's named, or is it comprehensible because now that you see it in orderly creation, you can kind of start to like name it, even though you can't really name it?
Yeah, yeah. So you could kind of point to what the Tao is with the orderly creation that's going on. You could say, this is accordance with the Tao. That's when it becomes able to comprehend.
Yeah. And then it talks about, knowing when to stop, because when you recognize the presence of the Tao, you understand where to stop. It's kind of like what you were talking about. And so in Stephen Mitchell's, he says, all things end in the Tao as rivers flow into the sea. And Dwight says, Tao is like the brooks and streams in the relation to the great rivers and the ocean. What are your thoughts on that?
I think he's basically saying the same thing that Stephen Mitchell's saying, but he's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of leaving it a little more, what's the word? Just a little more mysterious behind it, I guess. A little mystery. Because he's talking about in a relationship, whereas Stephen Mitchell just tells you rivers and streams flow into the ocean. He's saying, well, what's the relationship? This is what it's like. This is the Tao. So you kind of have to figure it out for yourself because there's more to just flowing. They also support it. The rivers and streams support the ocean with their life that flows into it and stuff. A lot of fish that come from streams go to the ocean get eaten by brackish fish that'll swim in fresh and salt water. That happens a lot. I live near a river, right near the mouth of a river, the Housatonic River here in Connecticut, and done a lot of fishing. And there's certain fish that can survive in fresh and salt water, like bass, for example, striped bass, and they get really big. So it's that whole relationship, right? That's the Tao.
Indeed. All right. Well, I will go to the next verse. First Dan Rosenthal.
And the second part, I got to read it right.
Mm-hmm.
When the Tao is divided, there is a need for names. For like the block which is carved, its parts then are seen. I think this is maybe the best explanation of naming things and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
because everything, it's like you could say it's all God, right? Also, because you're the for Zoom, you might have to unpin yourself because I had you pinned. So now,
Okay.
yeah, and then you could share again because then it'll show whoever's talking. But before, I think it was just showing.
Oh, oops. Let
No, no, it's not.
me,
It's nothing you did. It's just because I had you pinned before I could switch it
yeah,
back.
but let me make you, I'll have to make you the host again anyway.
Okay,
So I'll just do that so you could do it.
the host with the most.
Yeah, so
You
you
are
can
now
unpin
the
because
host.
I don't know how to do that. So go ahead.
All right. So, I think if I just click, are you pinned? So this,
I
that's the
click
end button.
myself and it says I just say pin, but it doesn't, I can't tell if I'm pinned or not.
Um, yeah. Let's see. What's this do? Nope. Well,
No worries.
yeah. It's not. It's not that big of a deal.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, it's still doing it to the both of us?
Oh, I don't know because you have to share. All it was doing though, it was just showing you during the sharing parts when you
Yeah,
were sharing.
it's still
So
doing it. I don't know how to not.
if I can make you the host again, because on here I don't know how to unpin you. They change this stuff so much, it's crazy. Oh, there we go. Maybe it's working now. No, I'm the. No, I think it just switches it by clicking. Let me try this.
It's just your view, but
Yeah.
on YouTube it's like one or the other.
Okay. Oh, it is?
Yeah, on YouTube
Uh,
it's
oh, hi everybody.
pinning one. Yeah.
Oh, man, I don't. Can I make you the host
Sorry.
again?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well,
For
no,
the last few minutes.
I'm just trying to figure out if we might have to roll this way because I don't know how from a mobile how to make you a host. It's really the options here are. Oh, here we go.
Thank you guys for your patience.
Yeah, what's going on out there? How's everyone doing?
Yeah, they're talking. Joe said striped bass. That brings me back to my childhood on Long Island. And when you said striped bass, I wondered, that's not the same thing as striper, is it?
Yeah, striper. People call them stripers.
Oh, okay. Because
It's not the
Cody's
same thing as a stripper though, but
okay. Because Cody has fished with his friends for striper.
oh, all right.
Yeah, in New Jersey. Joyzy.
Doity Joyzy.
Yeah, Dwighty Joyzy.
Cool.
Oh.
Is that, I'm just like messing with different things here. I don't know if this is even doing anything. You know, we'll just go back. It's fine.
Dang
It's
it.
the end of the episode anyway.
It's the
Okay.
end.
Well, at least none of us are pinned this time. So, yeah, you want to share that again and I'll read it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, when the Tao is divided, there is a need for names for like the block which is carved. Okay. So we
Okay,
read
you
this. That's
liked
what
that.
we're talking
Yeah.
about.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. So, yeah, same kind of thing, right? If you look at a block of wood, the parts are seen, the carved parts. So like if it's just a tree, right, you're not going to see anything. But then somebody takes the tree, cuts it into a block, then forms out of that block what they want, and then say it's like a guitar. Now you have a guitar, and that's when
Mm-hmm.
you can name it.
Yeah. Good call.
But
Good
from the
point.
outside of a tree, you can't see that guitar or whatever it is. You can't see it until it's carved, and
You can't see a bowl or a spoon.
Yep.
Got it.
But
Well, you didn't read that last part.
by stopping in time from torment and conflict, strife is defeated and danger averted. The people then seek the wisdom of the Tao just as rivers flow to the great sea. So this part gets a little confusing, but
Mm-hmm.
because it's like how are you going to stop in time from torment and conflict? I think that has a lot to do with being in the present moment, really. Because if you think about time as an illusion, the past and the future are kind of an illusion. The only thing that really exists is this present moment. So you're kind of stopping time by focusing in the present moment. So maybe that's what they're alluding to there.
Yep. All right. Then I'll just read the last bit here by Aleister Crowley. Second part of verse 32, he says, Tao in its phase of action has a name. Then men can comprehend it. When they do this, there is no more risk of wrong or ill success. As the great rivers and the oceans are to the valley streams, so is the Tao to the whole universe.
Mm, I like that.
Yeah.
A lot of the valleys or a lot of the streams and rivers, and it's in all four of them.
Yeah, it is. So, well, shall we I don't know how to do this. If shall we just stop share and
Oh yeah, stop sharing. Then I can end the live streaming from my computer still. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for hanging out. The best way to support us, as we always say, is to be here, hang out, participate in the chat. I know I haven't really been participating in the chat today as much, but thank you guys so much for being there. Make sure you like our videos, subscribe. But the best, yeah. So I did it backwards.
it's fine. They know.
That's the best way to support us. But you can also support us by going to morelawsmoreproblems.com. Click on the oversharing tab, and there's several ways to support us financially or whatever. and we're going to be continuing this Tao series until we're done. But in the middle, well, every once in a while we're going to have a guest. But we also have an idea for another show too that we might do that's off Tao. It's not going to be Tao, so look for that as well. I don't know. Is there anything else that they've been chatting about? I gotta hop in and see. True
Okay,
that,
so
Brandon. That's right. You guys rock. Thank you, PK.
yes,
Thank you.
thank you, PK.
If
And
you guys really want to get a cool, let me see if I
me
can.
how is that? I think that's how I pronounce his name. It looks like Michael, but it's not. It's me how. Me how. It reminds me of Romanian. Mihai. That's
Oh yeah,
me in Romanian. So
welcome.
all right, MS, if you're on Telegram and you have seen me in any of the chats, reach out and we can, invite you to our chat group or whatever it is, and we can chat.
Yep. And you could just also leave a comment under here if there's another better way to contact you, or go to More Laws, More Problems. You can contact me there, and I could let you know how to get a hold of us on Telegram and all that fun stuff. Cool. Yeah, we're very interactive, but we're picky. But if you're interested in this stuff, that's cool. We just like to
Yeah.
keep drama out of stuff. I think you guys will understand that.
Yes.
Awesome. This phone on my camera is definitely, I could tell it's like a better camera than on my computer. Everything's like coming in more. You can see the wrinkles. No, I'm just Hi, everybody. The laugh lines. Yeah, so that's our show on verse 31 and 32. Stay tuned for verses 33 and 34,
Coming
which are,
soon to a YouTube channel near you.
that's right, to this one. So make sure to subscribe, tap the bell. So every time we go live or we premiere something, you can see it and you can come here and hang out with us. It's usually on Thursdays about this time. It's our best time. So yeah, come hang out. Well, I guess we're near the end, so I could say the thing I love to say all the time, which is, what do we say to the good people, Sharon?
Once you start over Sharon,
Then you totally stop being a Karen.
that's right.
All right, yes. So share and share on, and remember, everybody, we're not telling you how to live.
We're just trying to give you some tips on how to live a little more simply. Could it be?
That's right. And good night, Joe in Germany. Thank you, everyone else for hanging out. MS, thanks for hanging out and showing a lot of interest in asking some questions. That always helps us. We love the questions. That's what we're here about. Is all for the questions. So, all right, everybody. Thank you guys, and we'll see you next week. Ciao.
Ciao.
All right.
Arrivederci.
Done.